For the past 200 years, one of the biggest empires of Mesoamerica in the late of Texcoco or Aztec Empire was known for their cruel, brutal, and ruthless human sacrifice ceremonies since 12th to 14th century. However, they were once known as the engineer of wonderful architecture. Aztec architecture such as Mayor Temple, Chinampas, superhighway, and aqueduct was introduced to the world around 16th century when Spanish explorers invaded the empire. Those inventions started when Aztecs first arrived their new lands in 1325 from their homeland, Aztlan. The land was a swampland or a wetland ecosystem that has poor drainage, which means the land was flooding all the time. It was hard to grow the crops, and this was the beginning of creating one of the most powerful inventions and architectures of all time. So Aztec came up with an idea to accomplish the obstacle of their land called Tenochtitlan. They found Tenochtitlan, the capital of the city, and they believed that the god of walls and sun, Huitzilopochtli, gave them the direction to the swamp by marking eagles sitting on the peculiar pear cactus. Tenochtitlan was a huge city that was covered 5 square miles. Around 200,000 people lived in the city during its peak. It was built to protect Aztec people from the enemies and good for irrigation. Aztec civilization could advance their civilization into the new level. Before Hernan's court and the Spanish leaders found this wonderful city in 1519, lived there for 2 years before the invasion. In 1345, Aztec population was increasing and they needed to grow more crops to feed millions of people. However, Tenochtitlan was not suitable to plant huge amount of the crop, so they built Chinampas, or the floating garden in the district of Xochimilco, and expanded throughout the Valley of Mexico. Chinampas was a long garden bay that was separated by the river. It was approximately 30 meters long and 2.5 wide on the Mashi Lake. In order to be constructed chinampa, they had to tie the decaying plants, such as grapevines and saplings, into the frame. Then they tied those frames with the mud and placed it on the Mashi Lake to make it all sustainable. Maize, squash, chilies, and other vegetables were planted in the chinampas and the crop grew out throughout the year. However, chinampas was not only good for planting, it was good for meat production because it was surrounded by the river, which helped it become the habitat for fish, ducks, and maintain the ecosystem. Chinampas help feed millions of people in Aztec, which can help increase the population in Aztec. Next, Aztec was really famous for building the pyramid. The central temple of Aztec was called the Templo Mayor. It was the tallest temple in the empire. This was the main twin temple that is located in the center of Tenochtitlan and in the middle of the swamp. It was 60 meters high and It was first constructed in the land of East Coast to the land of Moctezuma I. It was surrounded by the Serpent Wall, and many crafting structures took place there. Aztec was a polytheism tribe, so the religion was really important to them. After finished building Tenochtitlan, they built a temple to serve their gods on the middle of the swamp. It used to worship the god of sun or Huitzilopochtli on the south and god of rain Tlaloc on the north of the temple. Many ceremonies took place there, especially the ceremony for human sacrifice. It was really important because without this temple, there would be no belief for people to rely on. Around 15th century, as the population was rapidly growing, the residents started to demand for fresh water. However, their land was located on the salty waterland. Aqueduct was first started in 1420 in the range of Shima-Popoca. However, his length was last only 10 years, and his aqueduct was not successful enough to carry the water to Tenochtitlan. So in 1466, King Moctezuma I created the invention called Kaputepec Aqueduct or the Great Aqueduct. It was a twin aqueduct that was used to transport the water from Kaputepec shore to Tenochtitlan. It was built and designed by Nezahualcóyotl, the king of Texcoco, king of poetry, and architect. Aztec builders constructed the aqueduct by using dirt, sand, and rock hewn by large wood stakes. These two aqueducts ran approximately 2.5 miles. This aqueduct used to transport the fresh water applied in Tenochtitlan and to the king's bottom. They also built a crossway in the north, south, and west to allow people to travel easily over the swampy land. The crossway were built as wide as 45 feet. They had the bridge which opened up to let the boat pass through the city and defend the city from the attackers.
And so the geography became a very important part of their livelihood and their growth as a civilization because they had to adapt to their environment and they had to live on an island in the middle of a lake surrounded by swamps and marshes, and they had to build on top of this island in the middle of the lake.
Aztec was one of the most fantastic empires in developing their civilization for the past 200 years before the Aztec of course and Conquistador in 1521. It would become one of the largest and most powerful cities in the world before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century. Nowadays, Aztec was collapsed and was located in the modern-day Mexico City. However, they still left their masterpiece and their architecture to inspire many people to build and accomplish their barriers such as the disaster and created the most wonderful human-made architecture like this empire, Aztec.